Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe you.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Monday edition of HomeFront Sitrep. Unfortunately, again tonight, you're stuck with me. Willis is still on vacation / doing the archery thing with the family, and Candace is taking some time for herself. So next week, Willis should be back, and you might have the both of us, depending on what my schedule looks like. Man, what a great show we had last night with Julian Diaz with Mission 911. If you missed that episode, please go back and watch it, especially if you have young kids or anybody that's susceptible to being exploited. They do a lot of counter human trafficking, counter exploitation stuff, and had a lot of great information for everybody out there and resources to look at if those things are happening within your household or your family or in your community. Week kicked off all right for me, I guess. Had a service on my brand new Tundra with 20,000 miles on it, and I was told I need new tires. So I guess it's the problem with the TRD Pro Tundra that it has a softer compound tire, and it's just eating the heck out of them. So, another $1,800 out of pocket on a $75,000 vehicle, right? So that's my problems. I had a great weekend. Did some fishing with a bunch of guys down in Georgetown. Caught a mess of crappie. Went and visited Franklin Sousley's grave in Fleming County. Franklin Sousley was one of the Marines and the corpsmen that raised the second flag on Iwo Jima. And then we also went and visited Presley O'Bannon. Presley O'Bannon was a lieutenant that was the first Marine, to raise a flag on foreign soil during Tripoli. And then he was presented the Mameluke sword, which then became the Marine Corps officer's sword, which is, they're both buried right here in Kentucky. And then found out there's a guy that's buried maybe, 10 miles from me in another cemetery. Was one of the first Marine raiders, was killed during the battle. Held off 13 Japanese, and when his major found him the next day, he was in the foxhole with the dead lieutenant and the dead Japanese sergeant and 11 other dead outside the fighting hole, and he was clinging to the Japanese officer's sword. And according to the major, the last words were, they were trying to come over me last night. I guess they didn't realize I was a Marine. If that doesn't get you motivated, I don't know what does. But yeah, had the release of this year's Mogadishu Mile bourbon from Jay Mattingly. Right now, it's still only available in stores. Marketing is working at getting that online for the sale as well. So $120 in store plus tax. $20 of that comes back to a pot of funds that will be split between the Three Rangers Foundation, Blue Skies for the Guys and Gals Warrior Foundation, and this year we included the Night Stalker Foundation to honor those guys that came in that helped do this year's blend. We had guys that were at the Battle of Mogadishu. We've had former Night Stalkers, current Night Stalkers, and we only found it fit to give back to that organization for everything that the 160th does within the special operations community, and then the sacrifices that they made during the Battle of Mogadishu. But yeah, busy weekend coming up. I have Warrior Honor Cruise has a special announcement that's going to happen on Saturday. It may even happen. We may even just do a small live, half hour or 40-minute podcast to talk about it. We had them on earlier in the year, but there's going to be something coming up to help raise funds for those folks too, to take those Purple Heart recipients and the families on that cruise. But yeah, it's exciting. I can't wait for it. I got to be there when these guys were working through some of the kinks and everything of this fundraising effort, and I'm excited. They're coming back into town on Friday, Saturday to do that. And Army birthday, Flag Day, and most of the guys are Army veterans anyway, so it's excited to have them in town on that day to do what they're going to do for their fundraising effort. But no, we got a great show tonight. We got JJ Hardy. You may have seen JJ on Tip of the Spear if you've tuned in to Tip of the Spear on the last Wednesday of the month. We've been obviously our schedule's full, and his schedule's full, and you'll realize why in a little bit. But JJ is an Army veteran, medically retired. He's also a leadership coach, and he's a podcast host with a couple different podcasts. I'm not going to get into it too much. I'll let JJ talk about that. But yeah, great dude. Willis and I have talked to him. We've both been on his podcast. And then obviously he's been on the Tip of the Spear. But yeah, without further ado, let's bring JJ up and let him introduce himself.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, JJ, how you doing?
Man, I'm great. Thank you you and Willis for having me on here. It's been a while. I was wondering when I was going to be on here, and then I saw this pop up on the calendar, and I was like, huh. I've been on the Tip of the Spear a couple times. I'm glad I'm finally on their show. This is really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man. No, thanks for taking the time. We had, I think we talked to you back in January, February timeframe, and we were already booked out into May. And I was like, man, when are we going to get this guy on? and I told Willis, hey, we need to slow down with the bookings a little bit and catch up and, at least, take some time. So, yeah, I think we're booking out in July. I think this month's already full. July's filling up. We got some stuff in August. I'm like, hey, we just need, we need a day just for us to come in here and BS and open it up to questions or whatever. So I think that day may be coming up too. But no, thanks for taking the time to come in. I'm glad you remembered to come on because it's been so long since we scheduled you. And I'm sure Willis sent out the, hey, by the way.
He did. I had a call lead almost right up to this one. And so my Facebook was going off over here, my messenger. Hey, you hopping on there? Sam's in there.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said last night with Julian, we all have lives, right? And
yes.
Especially you with your job and what you do in your podcast. I mean, you're just as busy as I am, if not busier. But yeah, no, we're excited to have you come on tonight. But if you would, I'm gonna steal the Willis phrase. Introduce yourself to the world of HomeFront Sitrep. Just talk a little bit about your military career and then where you're at now.
Sure. So I'm an Army veteran, and I served most of my career as an enlisted guy, E1 to E7, doing transportation management, and which is an 88 November for those who are familiar with the MOS ratings in the Army. I switched over to be a warrant officer at about 12 years in, and then finished off my time to just under 18 years as a warrant officer. Medically retired as a CW2, and I was still doing transportation. I was just doing it at a little bit higher level than I was as an enlisted guy. I had to deal with those O grades a little bit more as a warrant officer than I did as an enlisted guy, but that was what I signed up for. Transitioned in 2018. Had a tough transition that first year. I not only wasn't working, which causes enough problems as we all know, but I was taking care of a sick relative. My wife, kids, and I, we moved back to Virginia to help with taking care of my wife's father, who had dementia and diabetes. And every time I wanted to go back and do something, it seemed like his health would degrade a little bit. And we made that our mission. And then when I did decide to go back to work, it was because we lost him. But that was not easy after that point. Not only did we have to deal with that, but it took me about 6 to 8 months to find work. And that's just because the whole job application process for somebody that has a military resume, if you don't have somebody helping you with all of that and with the networking and everything else, it was very discouraging. And I know a lot of people who went through that same process that really, really hated it. I did work 2 or 3, and I worked 3 jobs before I decided to start my own business. I now I own Victory Leadership Coaching, and it's a company that I decided to start because at those jobs that I did work, that we made the same mistake at those places that the military made, except for the military has a track for it. And that's that they promote the high performers to a management position, automatically assuming that they're going to be a great manager as a result of that. And we all know how that turns out. Without the right mentorship and guidance and training and the whole 9 yards, it just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I know a lot of guys, myself included, especially the medically retired guys, you don't know when that package is going to come back from your medical evaluation board. So you can't truly properly plan for the future and a job and this, that, and the other. It took me over 2 years because I end up keep having to have surgeries and, it delays the process and everything. So, and then of course, for me, it was like 2 weeks. My paperwork came back mid-September. I was medically retired October 1. And I'm like, wow, what am I going to do? So, you lose that sense of purpose. You lose that sense of direction. I'm not a Marine gunny anymore. I'm not training, leading, mentoring anymore. I say it all the time. It doesn't matter if you're a private or a general. You have somebody over you that is setting forth a schedule or telling you what to do all day, unless you're a Chief Warrant Officer 5 and they're just unicorns and do whatever they want, right? I don't think it matters which branch it is,
No.
unless you're with the 160th, because I have never seen so many CWO5s in my life than I did a couple weeks ago when I went down there and took part in of their memorial celebration that they do. And I was like, man, they're everywhere down here. Yeah. But when they get in the community, they stay in the community.
Yep.
And when you go in there and talk to some of those guys and girls, you understand why. But yeah, so losing that sense of purpose, that sense of direction, and then trying to find your new sense of direction, new purpose. And for me, it took me following my passion to get that, and falling out of the sky and meeting a great group of guys and girls that I work with now with the skydive team, and then our nonprofit. And then I've been doing that for 11 years now, and when it becomes a job, I'll stop, right? But yeah, and my wife, she moved home. Same thing. She moved home to care for her grandparents. So we lived 2+ years apart. And I got to come home on the 96s and leave and whatever else. I mean, it's too far for a 72 from Camp Lejeune. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. And there's a lot of guys and girls that go through that same process. I mean, even some of the guys and girls that retire at 20 or 30, that's all you've known since you're 17, 18, 19 years old. And now you have to find something new. And even though we're told, I mean, I even said it as a recruiter, you're going to learn intangible traits that are going to make you more marketable in the outside world. You're going to learn, the skills and all this other stuff. Well, now all these companies want a certificate that says you graduated from a college, and it doesn't matter if you had, your degree was in basket weaving. That's all they want. And I'm like, that doesn't teach you anything. It's those intangible traits, the leadership, the responsibility, all that stuff, right? That we learned in the military should be a more marketable skill, but it's not. And no. It's harder to translate certain skill sets over to the civilian world, right? I mean, yeah, I was an infantry unit leader and I can put frontline supervisor, whatever, but is it really a frontline supervisor, right? It's not. No. And I'm still managing and, people, but it's not the same. No. So, being able to properly transfer those skills to a relatable civilian job, because there's nothing out here for infantry. There's nothing out here for a V-22 mechanic, right? There's no civilian V-22s. Now I could have gone and, I personally couldn't have, because I only have 3 hours on the aircraft. But had I got all the way through my quals and everything else, and then went and got my M&P license, I could have gone as a contractor, but I'd still be working on base. I'd still be doing the same thing I was doing prior to leaving. Yeah. And, out here in Northern Kentucky, there's no V-22 squadron anywhere around. Right. So it's one of those things. It's just, you got to find what works for you. And obviously, being a leadership coach and doing, the two different podcasts that you do with your veteranpreneur podcast and your leadership podcast, and then some of the other stuff that you're doing as well. And obviously doing your own business and being your own boss, it has its struggles too, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And, I want to circle back to what you were just saying though. Even for somebody like me, there's no such thing as a job in the civilian workforce for a guy who was considered a subject matter expert in all modes of transportation. So I would fill out this resume and then I would do the interview and they would say, well, what did you do? Okay, well, what did you do for land? What did you do for sea? What did you do for air? And I would start talking about all this stuff. And I had so many people say, well, that's interesting. I don't know what we would even do with that here. And then you'd never hear from them again. Yeah. So it's hard. Yeah. So many people tell you that even though you're not necessarily overqualified, there's no such thing as a job for somebody like you, which I would have liked just about anything that I applied for back then, but they didn't look at it the same way. But yeah, I agree. Leadership is one thing that as veterans, we not only had to act, but we had to train and we had to attend forced professional development on a regular basis. Not only that, we had that structure to where we had the closed door conversations to help us with our mentorship. along the way. And it's that way because we have to really, truly care for our people. You never know when we're going to need to rely on each other in more than just a garrison environment. And so we need to be tight knit. We need to be a family. We need to be able to rely on each other because when it counts, that means something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even in garrison too, right? You need to know what makes your soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, what's the Space Force, Guardians, the Coast. You got to know what makes them click, right? And you need to know, dude, one example is I had my lieutenant tell me one time, you need to go out there and yell at them. I'm like, why?
No.
I've never heard you yell. I'm like, I'll yell when I need to, right? I can get, especially coming off from recruiting duty. One of the things that you're taught is effective listening, right? And effective communication. And if I can get down to what makes this guy click, and I'm going to say guy because I was in the infantry. We didn't have females at that time. I can get through it to him on a more personable level and a more emotional level than I can yelling. Because all that kid has experienced since day one, drill instructors yelling, School of Infantry instructors yelling, right? It's in one ear and out the other now. All that yelling crap is for the birds. And when I yelled, when I actually had to, I had a kid that got DUI, and I used to tell him, from Myrtle Beach to Virginia Beach, and Greenville, Raleigh, I'll come get you. You're gonna hear my voice all the way home, but I will come get you. Do not drive. And I had a kid that got a DUI out in town, like in Jacksonville, right outside the base. And I lit that dude up. And when I got done, I started walking towards the company office, and every single window in not only Kilo Company, but headquarters company, and I think Lima was across from us. Everybody was in the windows like, who in the heck is that? And I went inside. They're like, you all right? I'm like, I'm good. And he knows it now. And then we had a discussion later. It wasn't just the ass chewing fest. We had a discussion, and it's like, dude, really, will I be mad? Yeah, I'll be mad. Will I be disappointed? Yeah, I'll be disappointed. But at the end of the day, you won't be killing anybody. You won't be killing yourself. You won't be getting a DUI. You won't be out X amount of money. I'm here to protect you no matter what you think of me.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, I didn't think you had it in you. I was like, really? Come on. I love the vote of confidence. I greatly appreciate it. But, it is what it is, man, at the end of the day. And I just wish more people would understand that the whole yelling thing, that the whole macho-ness of a yell and, thinking you're a badass because you're yelling, it makes you look like a clown most of the time.
Oh, yeah. It makes you, yes, a clown is a good word for it. Honestly, though, when you're trying to lead, not boss, but lead your people, intimidation only gets you so far before you actually have to get to know people and earn their trust.
Yeah.
If you don't earn their trust, nothing is ever going to go in a positive direction. They're going to work because they're afraid of you, and everyone will avoid you. And when a problem actually needs to be solved, they're probably not even going to come up to you and talk to you about it. They're going to try to hide it. Yeah. And you don't want that. That's never anything that you want when you're in a position of authority. You want to lead instead of push around.
Lead instead of manage is what I say.
Lead instead of manage. Yes.
Yeah. You manage things, but you lead people.
Correct.
Man, there's a great book I have here somewhere. Trust-Based Leadership. It's a phenomenal book. Mike Etor wrote it, former Marine. He took the stuff that he learned in the Marine Corps and applied it to business. And in ways that I never thought was be like, oh yeah, that works that way. That truly does. Right. And just, I've got a bunch of stuff highlighted in his book and notes beside it and everything else. And every now and again, I have to open that book and remind myself to, all right, calm down, lead, don't manage. It's we're dealing with people, we're dealing with lives, we're dealing with families, we're dealing with, their money, their time, everything that is important to everybody, because the job isn't important to everybody.
Yeah.
The paycheck is important because they have to pay their bills. Their time off is important, right? Because they want to spend it with their families. But the job may not be important to a lot of people.
It's just a paycheck.
Yeah, and it's up to us as leaders to make the job important, right? Because
Correct.
you have to make the people important. You have to make them feel part of whatever business model you're doing. It's not just them, driving the truck or them building the furniture or them sanding floors or whatever, changing the oil. And we see that in a lot of companies when you go in and people are excited to be at work. And it's like, why are they excited to be at work? What's going on behind the doors that you don't see, right? Chick-fil-A. I don't like calling out companies, but I'm going to. Chick-fil-A, you never see anybody arguing and bickering or anything. And they try to be calm and reserved and respectful to everybody, even if it's that one person that didn't want pickle on their burger and they got pickle on their burger. Oh, sir, I'm so sorry. Let me make you another one. Or ma'am, or whatever it is, but always respectful.
And they stand outside all day. And
rain, heat.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. And they always have a smile on their face. Whatever training they're getting, it must be world class.
Yeah.
And Steve Kingsley, he brought up something I see in the comments over here. There's a place and time to yell. You get farthest most of the time treating them the way you'd want to be treated. I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
that is such a good comment. And Willis, I see he's in there replying to everybody.
Yeah, he's eating friggin' nachos.
He's eating nachos.
he says he just finished eating at the Nacho Hippo.
What the heck is a Nacho Hippo?
Yeah, it's a restaurant down the Myrtle Beach area.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of it. Okay. But no, that's a good comment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and again, it's not just military related, right? I mean, most everybody on here is veterans. I mean, Steve's a veteran. Obviously, Willis is, and I'm excited to see Steve on Saturday, and hopefully Willis can get some time off. If you haven't talked to the wife about it yet, Willis, cat's out of the bag. Just for a couple hours. I know he's got his daughter's graduation party this Saturday, so hopefully he can get off for a getaway for an hour in the morning to come out and help the Warrior Honor Cruise guys. But yeah, excited to see Steve and the crew this week for sure. Yeah,
as a matter of fact, my daughter just graduated from high school as well, and last weekend we did her graduation party, and then we had her graduation ceremony, and I don't think there's anything as emotional as that, except maybe her being born.
That's what I was thinking too. So my oldest graduated last year. I say that. He graduated high school last year, but he had already finished 2 years of college.
Mm-hmm.
So, sitting over there and watching him walk across the stage, cum laude, and I'm like, where'd the kid get the smarts? Where'd the kid get the intelligence?
No.
He applied. I mean, as a junior in high school, he's on the college campus. As a senior in high school, he's on the college campus and making the dean's list, right? So senior in high school, second year of college, making the dean's list, graduates cum laude. It's like, dude, this guy is so freaking intelligent. And then he gets home and does the dumbest shit, right?
Yes. Well, they just because they're book smart at that age does not mean that they are necessarily street smart yet.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They have a lot to learn. That's why they're young adults and they're not adults yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
But now he's working for the Covington Police Department as a cadet. He got his real first taste of how officers get treated today, or some of the interactions they may have, because there was two ladies bickering back and forth over a parking issue or parking complaint or something. He come home and I'm just sitting there laughing about it. And he's like, I'm going to watch the body cam footage when I go back to work. He goes, I can't share it because it's confidential. I was like, no, don't do anything that's going to jeopardize your future. Don't be dumb. We can talk about some of the things, but there's things that's going to happen that you can't talk about.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, we're excited. And yeah, so Julie just says Grace was magna cum laude and asked if there was dinosaurs in the North Carolina forest.
I'm not going to share some of the things my daughter says, but she also graduated high honors, and she was on the dean's list for the college she was going to while she was in high school as well. Yeah.
Yes.
There's still the young knuckleheads that we raised, unfortunately, and they'll probably be that way for a while, but they're also probably going to far exceed anything that we've ever done in our lives. So that's the other part that we're missing.
Yeah, and when that stuff comes up in our family, and especially if it happens, we're on a road trip or something. I look at my wife. I'm like, "That's your side of the family."
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, but I tell you, 100%, it's my side of the family because we're a bunch of rocks on my side of the family. I can say that because none of them watch the podcast.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, man! I didn't tell them about my podcasts.
Yeah. So let's. I know you got two different ones. I know you were going to try to rebrand and stuff when we last talked. Because again, you and I haven't talked in a while because I've been busy.
Yep.
Are you still looking at rebranding? You still doing the two, or how's that going?
I have two, and actually I've been doing a live stream every other week with a guy by the name of Chris Pinkowski, not a veteran, but he used to be a leadership coach. Now he's in the industry. So I'm going to be posting a third one because I'm already doing the work and I'm not posting it at all. And my dogs are over there saying hi to my daughter because she just walked into the door. But sure you can hear that in the background. But no, that one's called Leadership Live. It's very, very simple. We've just been doing that one. So I have Leadership Live that's going to be starting here pretty soon. And I'll probably backdate all the episodes that I've already done because I've already done the work.
Yeah.
Then I also have, I don't even remember what it was called when you were on there, but now it's called Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. And so there's that one. And then I have Warrior Leadership, which is a really cool one because we talk about the ideals in leadership coaching, and we kind of bounce them off of ideals that are related to therapy. Because I do that podcast with a gentleman who's also an Army veteran, but he's a therapist over in California, which nice. I'm sure is very, very interesting. But no comment on California. But so, yeah, I love all three of my shows. They all do something different. The Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast, the main purpose of that is to get veterans off the couch and back in the game. We talk all the time about how we have that identity crisis when we leave the military, and it's just because everything is different. We don't have to. We actually have to start worrying about where the extra money is going to be coming from for our bills. We have to worry about having conversations with other people in the civilian workforce. And when we bring up things that we did in the military, they have absolutely no idea what any of it means. And so it looks like we're talking to somebody that is literally off in left field. You can tell, you can tell everything leaves their eyes and they're not listening to you anymore when we're talking to them, all that stuff. So, that's really what it's all about. So I showcase that one. I will always have a guest, but I showcase people who are out there doing good things so that the people listening, hopefully the stories that are shared on there with veterans who successfully transition and do other stuff, it resonates with them, and it'll motivate them to go out there and take action on what they want. Even though lately I've been talking a lot about on my different podcasts and channels and stuff that I don't know if it's an aha moment, but tell me what you think about this. And I've had a couple conversations with some therapists and a couple other leadership coaches, but motivation versus discipline. Motivation really is kind of a falsity because it only really gets you excited for a short amount of time. But discipline is super, super important because regardless of whether or not you want to do it, when you have the discipline, you're going to go do it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, and we talk about false motivation all the time within the military, right? I mean, everybody has their own little battle cry that they do. And, the CO's like, hey, I'm going to get you off an hour early. And everybody's like, right? And it's like, whatever, bro. It's an hour, right? At the end of the day, it's an hour. It's not, it's a Wednesday. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Or it's Thursday. Yay, I get to start cleaning my room an hour early. So it's just, like true motivation. It does. It keeps you pumped up for a little while. I mean, you see it in sports especially, and I know a lot of people hate Tom Brady, but he was a great motivator in the locker room, great motivator on the sideline, even when he was busting tough books and tablets and everything else. And you saw that in the Atlanta Super Bowl. They're down 28-3 and come back and win the thing just because of him keeping guys pumped and motivated on the sideline. But again, every single one of those guys, except for Gronk, ran the routes they were supposed to. And Gronk will even tell you, I don't know. I just ran and I was open. He threw it to me,
That's good.
Right. But yeah, I mean, having that discipline, I mean, by having both, right. And you can conquer whatever. And, there is I applied for a job, a couple of them, security jobs. And they're like, hey, we can't start you off at the lowest. I'm like, I just need a job. I need something to help sustain and keep my family afloat and keep my house and keep the vehicles and keep the lights on. They're like, yeah, but we can't start you at that position. I'm like, so what you're saying is I'm overqualified. They're like, we're not allowed to say that, but we can't start you at that position. I'm like, dude, I don't want to be in a leadership position. Put me in the friggin' basement, guarding the toilet. I don't care. Just give me something. And there's a lot of companies out there that are like that. Just, again, without saying you're overqualified, like you said earlier, you're overqualified.
Yep.
And now you have to find something different. And sometimes, especially if you're looking at for me in the security realm, you got to find a company that's kind of hard up for people. And then you're like, why are they hard up? And then you start working there and you're like, oh, there's no leadership. There's no structure. I need to get out of here.
Well, and we were never taught in the military that when we go into a new position that we have to interview them back for culture.
Yeah.
Because if we pick a job that is completely outside of our value set, we're going to hate it there.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't matter if they pay you $150,000 a year. If you hate it there, that's going to, I mean, what are you willing to do for $150,000? I mean, it's not, your life is going to suck.
Yeah.
Because you spend your time there.
Yeah. And that's one thing I didn't think of is, what's the culture here? Right. And, for me, I went into third shift and that's the busiest shift, so I worked for a sorting/shipping company. That does not begin with A. But the company I worked for directly, they cater to the Fortune 500. And it's like, man, this should be a great position. But again, when you have the leaders that don't know how to lead, that only manage, right? They can put a schedule out. They can put, XYZ on this shift. Hey, can you stay over? Because we are underpowered, we're undermanned, but you're only going to get an hour to two. And you realize there's no leadership here. There's no true structure here.
No.
And then I got written up for giving somebody a threatening look. And I'm like, how does
Seriously?
this happen? Oh yeah, absolutely.
What?
Yeah. On my son's birthday, July 5th, I got written up for giving somebody a threatening look. And it was, they said something pretty ignorant to me. And I just turned around and looked at them and I went to do my job. And then I got called up on the radio to go back to the supervisor's desk, and she wrote me up. And I went back to doing the job I was doing. And I sat there pissed off and I called the wife. I'm like, do I need this job? She says, we can get by if you don't. I'm like, on my way home. And I walked.
Good woman. Yeah.
And I sat at home for 2 years, really doing nothing. I can't say that. I got involved in the nonprofit realm and started talking about my life events with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury. I started talking openly about, the veteran suicide epidemic that we're still having. I mean, it's still there. No one talks about it anymore, but it's still around. It's still happening on a daily basis. And I did that for years and then got involved with the skydive team. And, that keeps my head above water. It gives me a little bit of solace. I mean, I do get stressed out every now and again because, we want to perform for everybody, and Mother Nature doesn't allow that to happen sometimes.
Right.
And it's hard to tell a client when they see blue skies, hey, we can't jump today because the winds at 30,000 feet at 3,000 feet are 30 knots.
Right.
They just don't comprehend that, and they can't see it because you don't see the wind because it's blue skies. You don't see the clouds ripping by you. Or there's a lightning strike 9 miles away, right? In college football, it's like, hey, we got a lightning strike 9.9 miles away. That's within our 10-mile boundary. We got to put you on hold. Oh, and you can't jump now because we're just going to start the game, no pregame stuff. So, and it's hard, and sometimes you don't get hired back because of that stuff. And that's something we can't control, right?
I mean, if the wind is blowing, they realize that you have a parachute that's attached to you that literally catches air, and that's why you don't fall to your death.
Yeah. So, but and what we do with our nonprofit and supporting other nonprofits, and just this past weekend, I mean, I went fishing last weekend and this weekend, and that's my reset for me. That's for me to just become one with nature and just leave everything that's going on in my life, out on the water.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fishing with a blind double amputee, and he's like, Sam, how many fish you got back there? I'm like, I don't know, 3 or 4. He goes, well, I got 8 up here. I'm like, yeah, thanks for making me feel better, bud. I'm getting outfished by a blind guy. Thanks. But at the end of the day, I told him, I was like, listen, for me, I have to catch 3 or 4 to your 1. If you want to look at, being, equal, because you're fishing with 1 pole, I'm fishing with 2. I have my side. I can see where I'm casting. You're just out there, no pun intended, just blindly casting. We're like, okay, turn to about 1 o'clock. And, in front of the boat, he turns here. Okay, cast. And he casts and slow retrieve, and boom, he gets it. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me right now? And so then I started fishing behind him. And I started catching fish. He's like, Sam, you're cleaning up my trash. I was like, no, you're just bringing them in for me, Matt. All this is still going home with you.
You know what's interesting about that is that if you really look at it from a different standpoint, if he can't see all the things that you're seeing, then that also means he's not overthinking it. He's just doing it.
Yeah, we talked about it. He's going through the motions, right? Yeah. And he is. And Willis says he can feel the line better. I mean, he can, but he can't, because a crappie doesn't smash the line, right? A crappie just will. So, I mean, you have to sometimes watch the tip, because the line doesn't do enough, because you're on ultralight reels or rods, and it's harder to fish.
Yeah, you would probably have to hold the rod, actually, because you can feel everything on those ultralight rods.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's you have to improvise to your surroundings. You have to look at what do you want out of what you're doing, right? For me, I just want to leave my stress at home when I'm on the lake. When I'm at work, it's about keeping the guys and the girls that I work with safe. Keeping the people on the ground safe, making sure that there's a safe landing area for them, right? And no matter what you're doing, you have to like what you do. I mean, if you're just sitting there going through the motions at work, you're not going to have a great attitude most of the time. No. If you don't like who you work for, you're definitely going to, bring some of that home. And I used to take, especially when I was in the Marine Corps, it was, depending on traffic on base, 40 minutes for me to get home. And that was enough time for me to decompress from dealing with knuckleheads.
Yeah.
But when we lived closer to base, I'd get home and she's like, you need to go for a walk. You need to just get whatever is happening here. It needs to be left out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's one of those things, man. And so how do you, if somebody is in a funk, right, or I can't say having an issue, struggling a little bit as a leadership coach, how do you bring them up, if you will?
If they're struggling, how do I bring them up? Well, I mean, that you already know that there's about 1,000,001 situations that could be entailed with that. But I would say, generally speaking, it's through questions. You got to get to the root cause. It's kind of like doing a root cause analysis with any guy any guy or gal that I work with. And the main thing is to figure out what's going on, and then, have a little discussion with them after you figure it out. And then ask them the questions that are necessary to help them figure out a plan of action to move in the direction that they want to go. Now, that's on the coaching side. Otherwise, I have programs that are specifically tailored, that are education based, where I do cohorts and teach people the basics of leadership. And then I have a program that is specifically tailored for people who have been a leader for a little while. And those work a little bit differently because, everybody's going to be learning the same stuff. But since everybody has a different job, when they come back and they do their assignments that they're assigned as part of those programs, and we do the group coaching part, which is what we do every week during my programs, I think that's where the real education is, because that's where they can learn from everybody else's struggles while they were doing these assignments that I give them. Because not everybody as I said, not everybody has the same experience. But from a coaching perspective, if it's just one-on-one, I mean, even John Maxwell says that good leaders ask great questions. If you know who he is, you have to get root cause analysis in almost everything you do is the most important. And coaching is not about giving solutions. It's about getting them to a solution.
Right.
And if that plan is not their own, then they're not going to execute it. So you have to, it's like you have to turn their head in the direction of the solution, and you do that through questions.
Yeah. So it's lead them to the water, but let them drink.
They have to drink the Kool-Aid that they make, man. If they don't make the Kool-Aid, they're not going to drink it.
Right.
And even sometimes then they don't drink it. I've had some clients, man, where, they make their own plan, and then every week they show up after they say they're going to do all these great things, and they don't take action on a thing.
Yeah, they don't execute.
Oh yeah, and that's every coach's nightmare. But it has happened twice in the almost 3 years that I've been doing my coaching programs, and for those, not everybody. I think some people, it's more of a check the box thing than actually wanting to make progress. But for the most part, it's really easy to get people to solutions. You just have to make sure they know right up front that action is what it's all about. If you're here to, have somebody throw a solution in front of your face and get you to there's no easy direct route to anything. So if you're truly looking for some help with a solution, then you need to be willing to take action after we have these discussions every week.
Yeah. So be open to receive the information and be willing to apply it.
Correct. Not even, I mean, they answer the questions, do the work in the call, but then also do the work off the call.
Yeah.
Or in person. I've only had a couple people locally over here. Most of my stuff is virtual.
Yeah, and that was my next question. So do you do in person and virtual, or just both, or does it depend on the situation?
Most of it has been virtual. Oddly enough, I get more business outside of my local area than I do in my local area, but I do have a lot of fun going to somebody's place of business and sitting down with them at their conference room and working this stuff out in person.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than, being whether it's instruction or coaching or whatever the case may be. I love it all so much better when I can be there in person.
Yeah, and you're on their home turf too, so they feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more acceptable to some of the techniques that you're providing for them, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. They are willing to open up a little bit better than and a little more quickly when it's on their own turf. Yeah.
And then, online too, you don't get the distractions, right? So for me right now, I've got, the feed here, and then I've got my phone down here that I'm so I can comment as myself instead of putting it on and having it pop up like I did initially with, United Podcast Stream, CM Music Group, all the things, right? Popping up. I was like, I'm just going to comment as myself. So I'm going to have this open on the thing. But and like the dogs barked, and your daughter came in the room and there was some howling, right? You don't get those outside distractions when you're there, because secretary may come in, hey, big boss is on the phone, you need to go, right? But that's a few and far between.
Yep.
Whereas here, there's stuff going on here at the house all the time. Dude's up back mowing the lawn, somebody just slammed the cabinet in there, and so it pulls your attention, and that stuff's not happening when you're in their environment for the most part.
Well, and what's interesting about that too is that unless they've been in a senior position and want some coaching, 9 times out of 10, their company is the one paying for the coaching.
Yeah.
So, if the company's paying for the coaching, how much more likely is it going to have the boss interrupt you in the middle of the thing that they're paying for?
Right.
If they know that's what's happening, they're not going to do it.
Yeah. So that leads to the next question. If somebody wanted to hire you to come in to their company, how would they get a hold? Two-part. How would they get a hold of you to do that? Or if they want to do a virtual, how would they get in contact for you?
Well, there are 2 ways. One, they can go to victoryleadershipcoaching.com and just book a call with me. They can do that no matter what. Or if they don't want to go through all that nonsense, they can just call me. I put my phone number on my website too. So if people just want to call me, they can. Sometimes people don't want to go through the process of doing the whole online calendar and all that other stuff. But that's 757-325-5910. And they can just, I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, got it. Sorry, I got that sinus infection that's killing me tonight.
Nope, you're good.
So again, JJ can be found at his webpage. He just threw his number out there. For those of you that are listening, I'm glad that you threw it out there, because the video portion will pop up, and I'm not like Willis. I'm not typing everything in the chat and adding it to the screen and all that other stuff. Where can anybody else find you? You got Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the socials that they could look you up on as well? Yeah, so I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook. So I probably said one of those or many of those twice. I have absolutely no idea. But if you look me up, Jeremiah Hardy or JJ Hardy, or the easiest way is if you want to go in Google, you can type in #veteran leader trainer, all one word, and you'll be overwhelmed with how much you see my ugly mug on your Google search. I found one that wasn't being used, and I just decided to use that in almost every post I put out there. Good deal. Yep. Yeah, a lot of great information. We're coming up on the top of the hour. I can't believe it's gone by this quick. Is there anything else that we missed that you want to touch on, or any words of wisdom that you'd like to leave to everybody out here in the HomeFront Sitrep world that's listening or will listen later? Yeah, so just about... This is a universal piece of advice that I would like to offer up to anybody. So I deal a lot with resilience. My senior leader program teaches on that. And a lot of people think that resilience is just bouncing back from adversity. But what it really means to be resilient is to prepare yourself for that. So teach yourself skills like how to reframe negative thoughts into positive thoughts. If there's something that's hard that needs to be done, lean into that. Don't shy away from it. If you have difficulty taking action, take action more often. Build the muscles that you need to be strong and resilient in your life, so that when tough stuff happens, you're more likely to do what you got to do instead of back down from it. Good deal. Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. I know an hour is a lot for somebody to take out of their schedule when they're as busy as you, but I know Willis greatly appreciates as well, and hates the fact that he can't be here tonight, because we have such a great time with you when you're on the podcast, or just when we're just talking in general, especially during our meet and greet. But yeah, dude, I appreciate you so much. If there's anything that we can do from the HomeFront Sitrep side, please feel free to reach out to myself or Willis. And if he hasn't put you in contact with the other 30, 40 podcasters that he knows, I'm sure he will. shortly to get you a little bit more exposure. But yeah, again, JJ, thanks for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. Good seeing you again, and best of luck in the Victory Leadership Coaching.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. That's it. Oh man, what a great dude! Yeah, I remember we met him back during that's probably January, February. Had a great meet and greet with him, and then I went on the show. Willis went on the show, and then again, he's been on Tip of the Spear a couple times, and unfortunately, I've missed both of the ones that he's been on. I think because I was traveling or working, and then finally glad to get him on the show and let him talk about everything that he's got going on, what he's doing, and out there, trying to make people into better leaders or let them realize that they have the potential to be great leaders themselves. But yeah, man, I can't believe that we've been gone almost an hour already. Hopefully Willis is back next Sunday. I can't say that. I mean, I had a great time hosting the past couple days, but I do miss seeing Willis's face on the screen, and I'm sure the feeling's mutual, and I'm gone. Doubtful, though, because I haven't heard him say anything. Love you, Willis. But no, man, great episode. We will be back again next Sunday. I'm not sure who our guest is. I'm not prepared to look or to talk about it. Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then don't forget about Reese Across America Radio, Thursday night at 11 p.m. If you cannot listen at 11 p.m., you can always do reaseacrossamerica.com/radio, and then you can find the HomeFront Sitrep episodes there as well. Every night that we have an episode, we talk about, you're not alone. You still have worth. You still have value. You don't have to become a product of your environment. You don't have to go work in the woods because that's what your family did. You don't have to go, work in the factories. That's because what your family did, or tobacco fields. You can make a life for yourself. And, when you leave the military, surround yourself with those people that are going to bring you up and not tear you down. That's what we all need. JJ's out there doing it, through his leadership coaching. And, Willis and I try to do the best that we can do, during the show here to talk about, you're not alone. Everybody needs somebody. Everybody has a struggle that they're dealing with that people don't know anything about. And recently Willis started putting this up. In the silence of your struggles, remember, though unseen, you are deeply held in the hearts of others. You are not alone. And it's true, man. There are so many people out here that, even though you may not see them on a regular basis, that they still want you in their lives. They may not reach out all the time. It may just be on your birthday and that Facebook reminder pops up. Hey, happy birthday, brother. That's one of those things that doesn't pop up on the Facebook, is the brother part, right? That they had to delete those stupid emojis to put that piece in there. Even if it is just the happy birthday, at least they know, they're thinking about you on that day. Be somebody's stranger, be in the ear for somebody. We as humans are more apt to talk to somebody we don't know or listen to somebody that we don't know than we are to talk to our loved ones or talk to our friends, because we don't want them to look at us in a certain light. We don't want us to look at us as the demon or the bad guy. We want to be their hero. And when we start having those struggles, they may not think of you the same, right? That's what we think. They're still going to love you, but Willis says it. His wife didn't know a lot of the stuff he was going through until he started this podcast. And, now he's doing the stuff with the VA, and he opens up more about it here on the show. And I'm sure he does with his wife too. But, when you do see somebody, you got to ask them that question, how you doing? And they might give that nasty response that we all do. Dude, I'm I'm good, hanging in there, living the dream. But ask that next hard question. How you really doing? Really, how you really doing? Because you can tell when somebody's being, giving you that fake answer. And, but be prepared. It could be a 5-minute conversation. That could be that 5-hour conversation. There's a guy I could call right now, be like, dude, how you doing? I know for a fact it's a minimum of an hour. Minimum of an hour. And Candace says it takes a village, and it does, and it doesn't, your village doesn't have to be this big. Your village can be here. As long as you have people that you can reach out to and that you trust, let them be there for you. Let them be your stranger, even if they've heard your story before. But, it's going to be that time. We got to say thank you to Heroes Media Group, Reese Across America Radio, Veterans Voice Radio, Military United Podcast Streams, for being great partners of the show. Yeah, we got a bot in the lobby. But yeah, just again, we will see everybody next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here. Like we always say on HomeFront Sitrep. Stay safe out there. We got your 6.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.